There's a peculiar kind of silence that arrives when a mind is never truly quiet. Not the peaceful kind. Not the stillness you might imagine when you think of calm. This one hums, like a machine left running in an empty room long after everyone has gone home. It fills the space without announcing itself. A constant background noise you only notice when you try, unsuccessfully, to listen past it. It makes me wonder, what happens when our ability to think begins to erode? Not memory, not intelligence, just thought. Deep, linear, unbroken thought. Try to remember the last time you were truly bored. Not restless, not reaching for stimulation, not half entertained or half distracted. I mean real boredom. The kind that doesn't demand escape. The kind that stretches time instead of slicing it into fragments. The kind you might remember from childhood. A long car ride, your forehead against the window, trees dissolving into green streaks as the world blurred by. No music curated for your mood, no second screen, no urgency to fill the space, just road noise and imagination. Back then, boredom wasn't empty. It was fertile. Your mind wandered. It built stories out of nothing, replayed conversations, invented futures, asked questions you didn't yet know how to answer. It lingered, it unfolded. There's a quote by Blaise Pascal that says, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." At the time, it sounds exaggerated. Now, it feels diagnostic. I don't know the last time I felt that kind of boredom. Now, if I stand in line for more than 15 seconds, something automatic takes over. My hand moves before I decide. Phone out. Scroll. Small hit of something. Anything. Next. 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 Silence doesn't land anymore. It's intercepted. I came across an idea recently. Someone on Reddit named Maddie Joe describing a kind of cultural fracture. Not a medical diagnosis, but an environmental condition. Not physical, cognitive, a steady erosion of attention. And once you see it, it becomes difficult to unsee. You notice it in small, almost forgettable moments. A person in a grocery aisle standing still, staring at rows of cereal like the decision is too heavy to complete, frozen in a kind of cognitive paralysis. Their eyes glazed over not by thought, but by the absence of it. Overloaded. I've felt that myself. That strange blankness. Like your brain has hit a loading screen. You see it in the thousands of dashcam videos uploaded online. Drivers on the roadway, whose attention flickers on and off like a faulty street lamp. Piloting a lethal machine while their consciousness is partially uploaded to some digital elsewhere. You feel it in the emotional dysregulation. The hair trigger rage at a stubbed toe, a slow website, or a misplaced key. A minor inconvenience that somehow feels bigger. The free-floating anxiety that isn't about anything, but about everything. A hum that has become our default atmospheric pressure. You see it in relationships. Friendships straining over a text, because tone gets misread. And suddenly, it's DEFCON 1, over something that would have been resolved in 5 minutes face-to-face. You feel it in conversation, the way we now struggle to form a coherent thought, to plan 3 steps ahead, to truly listen to another person, or to be truly heard ourselves. And maybe someone listening to this is already drifting. Maybe it's not fast enough, not stimulating enough, not cut into perfect, digestible fragments. And that kind of proves the point. I felt my own patience shrink. My mom once told me a long story about her work. And halfway through, I felt my attention splinter. Not because I didn't care, because my brain wanted novelty. That scared me, because I love her. And yet, my mind was reaching for something faster, something brighter, something easier. That's the part that unsettles me. Not distraction itself, but what it interrupts. Because attention is not just a tool, it's a form of care. And when attention weakens, so does the depth of our relationships, our thinking, our presence. Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. What happens when we can no longer offer it? Part of this is structural. We've built an environment that operates in direct opposition to how our minds evolved. The human brain was shaped for continuity, for depth, for sustained engagement with a single thread of thought. And now it exists in a landscape of constant interruption, notifications, headlines, messages, endless streams of information competing for priority. It's like trying to read a dense, complex novel in the middle of a hurricane. Wind, noise, debris, movement. The words are still there, but the conditions for understanding them are gone. And then there's another layer. Survival. Not the survival of our ancestors, like facing down a predator, but a new, insidious form. Pressure. A quieter, more persistent kind. Economic instability. Precarious work. Predatory debt. The gnawing uncertainty of unstable housing that feels like quicksand. That low-grade calculation running in the background. Am I going to be okay? When your brain is hijacked by the immediate, terrifying math of making it through the month, there is less room for long-term thinking, for reflection, for patience. You can't see the horizon when you're constantly watching your feet for cracks in the earth. It becomes difficult to think 5 years ahead when 5 weeks feels uncertain. The most radical revolutionary will become a conservative the day after the revolution. Stability shapes thought. Instability compresses it. And many of us are living in a quiet state of compression. Then there is the digital layer. The scale of awareness we now carry would have been unimaginable not long ago. The existential fatigue of the soul. Before breakfast, I can know about a war in a part of the world I have never been. A geopolitical crisis between meetings, a celebrity meltdown, a climate disaster. 3 think pieces about productivity before lunch. Someone from high school moving to another country, and what Dr. Umar thinks about Kim's latest relationship before dinner. And then you are expected, not explicitly, but culturally, to respond. To have an opinion and be witty about it. To be informed, to be aligned, to be articulate and preferably immediate. Neutrality feels suspect. Silence feels like absence. But emotional energy is finite. You cannot meaningfully process everything you are exposed to, so something has to give. Either you burn out, trying to care about everything, or you numb out, protecting yourself from the weight of it. And numbness, from the outside, looks like indifference, but more often it's defense, a system regulating itself under strain. Where is the life we have lost in living? Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? We have access to more information than any generation before us, and yet something essential feels thinner. There is a subtle irony in all of this. The same devices that overwhelm us are the ones we turn to for relief, not necessarily because we want more information, but because we want less weight. Scrolling becomes less about curiosity and more about avoidance, a way to dilute the intensity of thought, a way to not sit with what we already know. It's a strange little loop. The tool that fragments attention becomes the tool we reach for when attention feels unbearable. There is also a quiet narrative that runs beneath the surface. If you are overwhelmed, it is because you are not optimizing yourself correctly. Optimize your sleep schedule. You need a better routine, better supplements, better focus hacks. The solution to a polluted attention environment becomes individual self-improvement. And while discipline matters, this framing isolates the problem. It makes it feel personal, as if the difficulty of focusing is a private failure rather than a shared condition, as if the strain on attention is not systemic, but individual. And so we struggle quietly, assuming we are falling short, when in reality, we are navigating an environment designed to fracture focus. So the question becomes, is the world actually getting shittier, or am I just getting old? I think both. The world has always had its shittiness, but this particular flavor of exhaustion, this cognitive and spiritual overcrowding, is new. It's less about aging, but depletion. Are we getting dumber, or are we just full? I most certainly don't feel dumb, but I do feel saturated, like my brain is a browser with 40 tabs open. 3 are always frozen. 1 is playing music somewhere I can't find. The hardware isn't broken. It is constantly overheating though. And when systems overheat, they slow down. Not because they are weak, because they are protecting themselves. The part that concerns me most is not productivity. It's imagination. Because imagination requires space. It requires boredom. The kind that allows thoughts to emerge without interruption. Creativity is not built in constant input. It is built in the pauses between it. You cannot form original thought if your mind is continuously occupied with reacting. You need silence long enough for something new to surface. All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. Movement, space, absence of noise, conditions we increasingly avoid. So what do you do with that? There is no simple solution, no single adjustment that restores clarity completely. But there are small, deliberate acts that begin to shift the conditions, like turning off notifications, creating moments where your attention is not immediately claimed, walking without input, eating without a screen, sitting briefly without filling the silence. At first, it feels uncomfortable, almost restless, like withdrawal. But if you stay there, past the initial resistance, something subtle begins to change. Thoughts start to connect again. Not rapidly, not impressively, but coherently. Not reactions, not echoes. There was a time when I had convinced myself that I need soundscapes to write and music to work out. Delusion is the word. There is also a quiet permission worth reclaiming. The permission to not have an opinion on everything, to not process every global event in real time, to not convert every piece of information into emotional output. You cannot carry the feelings of the entire world, but you can carry what is within reach. A conversation, a relationship, a moment of presence. That is not avoidance. It is a scale. Because perhaps the issue is not that our minds are failing, but that they are being asked to operate beyond the conditions they were designed for. And so they adapt. They filter. They dull. They fragment, not as a flaw, but as a response. Which brings us back to that peculiar silence, that hum, the mind that is always full but rarely settled. The challenge then is not to eliminate noise entirely. That is unrealistic, but to create intentionally small pockets of quiet within it, to reclaim moments where thought can extend beyond interruption, where boredom is not immediately resolved, and where attention is not constantly redirected. Because boredom is not the absence of something. It is the beginning of something, a blank page. And without it, there is no place for thought to gather, no place for imagination to form, no place for the mind to return to itself. And perhaps in a world that constantly competes for your attention, that is the quiet work, not winning the battle for productivity, not consuming more efficiently, but protecting in small and deliberate ways the space required to think it all. Wherever you are right now, driving, lying awake, or just sitting with your thoughts, I'm glad our paths crossed for a little while. Take care of your mind, guard your heart, and don't rush the questions that take a lifetime to answer. Until next time, Peace be with you.